In today's episode on Three Gorillas Podcast, Joe and Greg discuss their experience and the dangers of working on an underwater evidence and body recovery team. We're talking trees that reach out and grab you. You have found the Three Gorillas Podcast. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, Joe.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm good, man. It's all good. So we've talked a whole lot. Both of you and I spent a lot of time in an underwater evidence and body recovery team here in Central Texas, mainly in Lake Travis. You've supervised it. I was on it for years on call. And, as many times we've talked about this stuff, let's go ahead and document a little bit of this on Three Gorillas, on just the stuff that we had to deal with and the dangers of doing body recovery in Lake Travis, man.
It is wicked, just to say the least. We have had a bunch of them. I got a couple of them that we'll talk about. One that comes to mind is it was a student from a university. I'm not going to go into all that, but it was a student. And he had left one of the marinas. You know how they rent those barges sometimes, or they rent the tritoons and the pontoons. Well, this was a pontoon. They rented it. And we got the call. And as you know, in diving, one of the major things, and and I know, that when you first get to the scene is the last known point where they saw him go under.
Yep.
I think we can agree that, man, if you don't have that, in Lake Travis, 72 nautical miles, it is a monster. Yep. And this particular day, what made it so pretty tough is that it occurred right where you have a VIP Marina in that area, and then you have Starnes right across. So it's almost like an intersection where you have three different channels coming into one. And if you can imagine Starnes Island in the middle, as your middle point, and then you have three, it's like a delta coming in, but from three different areas. So they left VIP Marine, and then they said when they were coming back, they had a group on there, and everybody was getting all nice and happy and everything else. And this guy, while the vessel's moving, one of my pet peeves, he jumps in.
Yeah.
But they said he was a good swimmer. I always get that right. He was a good swimmer.
Was
yeah, past tense. Probably was not as good as he thought he was, but he jumps in. Different things can happen to you when you get in the water, cramps, so forth. I suffer, by the way, of cramps all the time underneath the water. I don't know why. I drink tons of water and bananas and everything else, in a good gorilla fashion, but no. But anyways, so he jumps in, and they said he came up and then he went down, and that was it. So when we get there, we asked where, and it was like, we think over there. But how far from the shore were you? The typical stuff. So you didn't really have a good last known point. And so anyways, long story short, we deployed to get in there and everything else. And we did like a 2 or 3 day search, different depths and everything else in the general area. And it was tough to start with because we were coming into what we loved the most, those pecan grove trees in the middle.
And before we go any further, how did that, because I've worked it so many times, I know there's a lot of go-to, depending on the cycle of who's in charge of the dive team, on whether or not, if they don't have a last point scene, they will immediately say, it's a no dive, and they won't even call anybody out. So how did you get past the no confirmed last point scene?
We got past that because apparently the people that their loved one was gone had a lot, could go to the higher echelons of our office and decide that, we were going to do something. So what we did is we actually did not dive. Mm-hmm. This guy, a good friend of ours, would do his sonar. He came out with the sonar that you drag, and so did the Parks and Wildlife, and they dragged it, and then we had a picture of the bottom. and we were looking around possible points, but nothing really that we can distinguish. So we decided we weren't going to really launch anybody at that point, and we didn't. So they didn't really were satisfied with that, and they decided to go and call a team from the University of Florida. They have a team over there that does recoveries. As a matter of fact, they are very famous because they've been to New York and Hudson River.
Hudson River.
And great group of guys, man. These guys are, I mean, this is a great team. Okay. Great team. They had a top support guy, a couple of top support. They brought their own equipment. We got the Munson, and they were using our Munson as the staging point, and we were just helping with all the logistics and bringing people on and everything else.
For those who don't know what a Munson is, it's a big boat with a front ramp on it, kind of like a landing craft from World War II, but better.
About 600,000 that we paid for it, and I went and picked it up when we got to go, and that's a whole different story, which is a great boat. But anyways, so we get them there, everything else. They have a top support guy. They have a safety diver ready with all his gear, just sitting with his feet in the water. And then they have two that go in. They set up buoys all the way around, almost in a square shape. The buoys are flexible. They have a series of, ropes that go up and down so it can be moved. And they set it in one specific location, depending on what they saw on the sonar. So long story short, they dove the very first time they go in there. Now, mind you, they have what we call the Ditson system, which I got to see it. It is fabulous, but it takes a special kind of person. You could do it. I could do it. Halsey could do it. But other people, and maybe, you got Snotty, you got the other guys that are really, really, and they would probably do it too. Because you have to go down there and trust the person. No problem at all. The way it works is I have like this, almost think about it as a radar gun, and I'm looking through it in the water. Doesn't matter what's in that water, it's going to look right through it. Trees, whatever, it's there, and it can see everything. It's almost like having a starlight back in the day, or some night vision underneath the water that you can see. Now, your diver that's with you, okay, he's on your back, okay? So when you go down, of course, in the water, it doesn't matter because he's just kind of holding on. You're the guide. He can't see anything, especially in Travis. Could not see a thing when they went under. So he would go down to the line. Think about the square line, and they're going to follow that square line in a square. And he's going to be shooting his Ditson into the square to start seeing inside that square, because they're going to put square, 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 and try to find what they're looking for. So he does that, and as soon as he sees something, detects something, the guy that's on his back has a tether line attached to the guy with the Ditson, and he goes out, and of course they have comms, and he's guiding him to whatever he saw. Again, you can't see anything, and you have trees as you're going through that. And
yeah,
the canopy.
I'd like to set this up a little better for our listeners, man. The area that he's talking about is part of an old pecan orchard. There's several of them, and then you have the original Lower Colorado river bank that has huge cypress trees and whatever other trees that were growing along that all the way up into the 1940s before they actually flooded that valley and made it into a lake. So the area that Joe's talking about is, you could be standing on the shore and you could walk out 80, 90 feet and it would be relatively shallow, or you could be two steps to the left and go off a 100-foot cliff. So that area that you're looking at is 90 feet, 80 feet?
At least. Oh, yeah. It was about 80 that day.
In that area, depending on what time of the year, on whether you can even see your hand in front of your face. So as a diver, you're going into this muddy thing with these trees that, remember, you're going to be underneath the branches of these trees. And as you're exhaling, your bubbles are coming out of your regulator and they're going up and they're hitting the branches of the trees and knocking off all of the 60 years worth of silt that are on these trees. So it starts raining this material
silt out
on you, right?
Yes.
So and people say, well, get a bright light, so you can see. You can't see through mud, folks. You can't do it.
It's like fog. It's like fog. Put your beams on, you're still not anything.
Right.
Nothing at all. So the silt out, and then the other thing that you forgot to mention, I know you're fond of this, is a lot of people like to go fishing in
Oh yeah.
Travis. And we have fishing lines that you can't see, that you get
70
entangled
years
in,
worth.
at least.
Yeah.
So you have all these nice little, things. So, anyways, they go down and they're doing their thing. Okay. And they searched as much as they could for about, I counted, but they were under probably about 45 minutes or so. And then they exit. They start coming up. Okay. And they made their exit top. When they got up, Gray, the first time, that guy looks, and I look at him. I can admire the whiteness of your shirt right now. I see it's just brilliant. That's what his face looked like. And he
Yeah.
says, Joe, he says, I have dove with this Ditson system in the Hudson. In the Hudson, I'm telling you, you can't see your hand. Can't. We have found all kinds of stuff, but I have never, and I've dove in Canada. I've dove in the Great Lakes looking for stuff because, the university sends them just about everywhere. He says, I have never, ever been in an environment where the trees reach out and grab you. He said he was just, I mean, this guy was really, really rattled. And, those guys don't get rattled. And he was rattled. You have to get used to it. You and I are used to it because we go down there like, me and Halsey one time we're down, we're looking for a body. And he takes off and I'm trying to stay behind him. We went over a cliff. So you know that we have comms up to what? Line of sight underneath the water. They have the cable in the water. But like you said, he was going and then it dropped off. And he followed the drop off, not thinking, wait, if I do the drop off, there's going to be no comms. All of a sudden, the comms disappear, and me and him are there. And then all of a sudden, he disappears in front of me in this mud. And what I didn't know, he went straight and got embedded into some trees. He said, I got embedded into trees. And me, when I was going behind him, he knocked all the silt. That's what happened when you follow somebody. And I had a tree here, so I grabbed the tree. All this silt is just, I can't see anything. So I'm holding onto the tree. La, 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 la. Wish we had like a overhead display. We could play like, Call of Duty or something like that, but you can't. So I'm just sitting there and everything drains out. And finally, right, I'm trying to talk, there's no comms. Okay. So I wait. It was about, that silt out lasted about 5 or 6 minutes. It was that long that I just sat there. So when it was done, then, okay, I look at my depth. I can see it. I'm going to keep on going the same vector that he was to see if I can come up to him. And what happened is he buried himself in, couldn't go any further. So little by little, he started backing up to get himself back out because that's what you do. You don't panic. You don't go. You go up and you're a dead duck because you have all the overhead and everything else. So he backs up. And there we go. So anyways, the guy from, and moving right along, the guy from the Florida State came up and he told me that they dove, I think, one more time. And, it was adios muchachos. I think they were like, they were unlucky. And the Ditson can see quite a ways. The distance on that thing is just incredible. I got to use it and look at it and everything else. And it was awesome. Of course, we couldn't afford it at the time because it's like a $10,000 system and they weren't going to get it. Although we got other stuff. But yeah, it's a very, very good system. But Travis, that Pecan Grove runs right in the middle. And you know how that goes. We never found him. And I don't think he ever did surface at all, ever.
Right. I know that's one of our 13. I made I went back to all the records that I could find.
Oh, you did?
Back
I
as
didn't
I
know
could.
that.
Yeah. And
I had 7. And not 13. I had 7. And there was another one that I can go into. You want me to go into the next one? You'll like this one. That one's
sure. I can't stress enough. Like you said, you got this guy from Florida State that is a professional diver, travels around and does
his whole team.
And unless you're talking about the Mississippi River with a 7 knot, 8 knot current, Lake Travis is about as dangerous as you can get, just for the simple fact that you can't see. And then you have that overhead obstruction
canopy
that you have to deal
canopy
with.
It's a canopy. I call it a canopy. I mean, just like your parachute, it's a canopy.
Well,
and if you go off of Windy Point, the same thing.
Right. Yeah. So you're talking about professional divers and the I believe it was our last show. Yeah, our last episode, and we talked a little bit about, I kind of threw in the George Bush boat catching on fire.
Tell me about that. I
Yeah.
wasn't there on that one. No, that
So
was you. Mm-mm.
what ended up happening is it's close to Christmas time, and George Bush had just been elected president, so he's gonna take office in January, and his boat, he had a pretty good sized boat, probably, I don't know, I'm going to say a 28 foot, 30 foot, something like that, docked out at one of the marinas, and it caught on fire. So the security guard out there ran out, and he called 911. Fire responded. He got out there, and Hudson Bend came over there, and it had already burned all the lines off of the boat. So they just threw a grappling hook kind of thing, and they drug the boat out of the slip, away from all the other boats. You got to see this. This marina probably has, I don't know, let's say it's 100 slips. So there's 100 boats there, and then there's different other marinas around it. So fire is like, best thing we can do is get this thing out of here because we don't know what's going to happen. So they drag it out of its slip, and they drag it all the way around, and they probably drag it about 300 yards down, around, and then over to shore and just beach it. Well, by that time, it's burnt down to the water line. It's completely lost, right? Well, when you think about a crime scene, your crime scene is going to be that boat. It's going to be whatever floats them, whatever stuff is in the water, and it's going to be whatever has sunk all the way to the bottom. And the bottom there is only 45 feet or something like that. It's not very deep, 60 feet maybe at the most. But the problem is your crime scene is now what, 300 yards long, because you don't know why this thing caught on fire. And if something caused it to caught on fire, let's say an arson situation, did that thing fall out of the boat as they're dragging it around? So we have this huge crime scene. Well, we call the fire department. The fire department's there, and they're like, "Hey, this is George. We got to defer this to the state." We call the state. The state says, "We're not going to touch this. This is like the this guy's going to be the president." That's ATF. So we get alcohol, tobacco, and firearms to come into this situation and look at it. Now, us local yokels, dive team, we're standing there playing our banjos, because nobody's asking us any questions because we're idiots. We're the locals. We're the county people. And so the feds the next day fly in their crack dive team from Chicago, right? So they fly them in, and they're there. We talk to them the next day. They come out. We kind of brief them a little bit about the situation, but they kind of just roll their eyes on us. And they're like, we got this. So Halsey and I just sit back and watch. And we're seeing these guys unload their gear and how they're setting up and everything. Well, we go over to this slip, and they're going to do the dive. This is the next day or like 2 days later. I can't remember. I think it might have been 2 days later because it took them a while to get down there. They show up, and they don't use a descent line for one. So they just put their diver, one diver. They got one diver, and they got him on a safety line, and then they got a rescue diver, right? Okay. So they put him in the water. And those of you who aren't familiar with diving, I apologize for some of the things I'll say because it's kind of hard to describe, but he's got fins on his feet. He starts descending feet first. So he is moving around wherever those fins are pointed. That's kind of where he's going. Well, he gets underwater. He's maybe 10 feet underwater, and you can hear him on the communications. You can hear him. He starts really sucking some air, man. He's really stressed out. He's like, I can't see anything. It's completely dark. I can't see anything, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to, just 40 feet or whatever and go down. Well, you see his bubble trail, and it's moving all around as he's descending because he's not descending straight down. They put no descent line to follow down. So he's just going wherever.
He has no reference point.
None whatsoever. And those fins, he's going down feet first. Those fins are pushing him wherever they want him to. He gets down there at the bottom, and he is sucking air, man. You can hear the comms. It sounds like his microphone is way down in his throat, And I'm just thinking, I hope they pull this guy out. This guy's way out of his depth. Well, one of the problems is when they flew into Austin, they went straight to the hotel, and then where'd they go?
No.
They went to have steak and
Oh no,
they
didn't.
went out to one of the local bars, hit it hard, and then showed up. Right. So these guys, but think about it. Is that's kind of the norm on a lot of these teams and a lot of these guys that do this. So anyway, he's like, okay, I'm calling the dive. I'm coming back up. So he's going to come back up. Now, remember, he's got a safety line. He's already wrapped his safety line around one of the anchor cables for the marina. So he gets caught about 10 or about 15 feet down. He can't surface now. His rescue diver can't do anything about it because he can't see anything. The guy embolizes. They go and cut his line, get him out, and they transport him to the hospital. The very next day in the Austin American-Statesman, the article was Lake Travis too dangerous to dive. ATF calls off their search or something like that. And Halsey and I are just sitting there because, we train under that dock, that particular dock. We whenever we're doing overhead work, like, all right, if we're going to do this, let's go over here. Those that are listening, when you're diving in the water around docks move a lot. They go back and forth, move a lot. You have electricity all in the dock, all these lights, right?
They have to be shut off.
Yeah. And those cables are doing this number. And if they don't shut them off, what they can do is they can actually ground out on the metal, and that electricity will leach off into the water and will kill you.
They had a case like that in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's a big deal. So anyway, my point is like with your guys from Florida, it's so interesting how the experts will come in. You realize, wow, they're the experts that go to the PowerPoint, presentation and just memorize the bullets. They don't go, okay, I'm going into somebody else's backyard. Maybe I should talk to them about what the conditions are and what could possibly be. Because remember, also, this dock is on cables. So it's not right exactly where it was when they pulled that boat out of there. So the dock is moving around as well. So by not setting a descent line, an accurate descent line on the spot where the boat was over, you don't know what you're doing. You're just going in the water, poking around in the dark. I digress. Please, back to you, John. I just had to point that out because this is not an unusual thing.
It is, but it's an extraordinary because it shows two things. One, there was a case in Tennessee where these two little girls, like all little kids, they love to jump off docks. I mean, we see them Lake Travis, people having fun all the time. The only problem that I have with that, and people don't realize it, is that who builds these docks? These docks stay there forever. Do they maintain them? Do they not maintain them? Are the cables properly placed, so forth and so on? And you never know that. But they were on that dock and they jump in the water. They're playing around. Next thing you know, they both drown. And the reason why they drowned, they went ahead and hit a pocket of electricity, shocked both of them, and they wind up drowning. Again, that's why when I see people swinging out those docks, I cringe. Because if you have electricity anywhere around that dock, to me, it's just like, okay, we're going to have people over. We're going to be doing this. Is great to have your boom box on and everything else. Use the battery off your boat, but shut your stuff off. It's just a better idea to do that because, that can happen. Anytime we do it, the same thing. To show you what you just said, we had a cove. I'm not going to mention the name of the cove, but we went to a cove on a drowning. Gentleman, and we had witnesses this time, which was great. Gentleman, descends to his dock at about, believe it was like, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Apparently he had a couple of drinks. And so he's sitting there, pulls out his fishing rod, starts to fish. Good that there was another fishing boat, a bass boat. This guy was fishing for bass, him and his buddy, and they had theirs anchored away from his location, but they could see him. And they're sitting there, fishing. And next thing you know, they look, and next thing you know, they heard a splash, and they don't see him anymore. So they look, couldn't see him. So then they went ahead and called. So they called the sheriff's office. We show up. They make a preliminary. They decide, the guys that went to the call, hey, this is where we think he went in. And go ahead and call the dive team. So we got out there, and we went ahead and immediately shut the electricity off, send a diver in, and he did a preliminary. And you know what that means? This is where we think he went down. This is where he's going to go and jump in there. And he did. We had a diver went in there. He looked. And he said, the conditions aren't great, but it was a really, really, really bad slope going all the way down. I mean, I'm talking this inclination was almost literally like you're going downhill skiing. That's what it looked like all the way down. And imagine the dock is right here. He hits that. What happens? He could have tumbled and kept on going into the channel, which is about 160 feet or 140 feet. So initially, when they went down and looked, he said the conditions weren't great. I looked as much as I could. I don't think he's there, but we could do a secondary or whatever. Okay. So we get up, that day we start looking, sending people all over the place, doing the pendulum. We did all kinds of crazy stuff and absolutely nothing. Couldn't find him. So then we go like, okay, so let's just go ahead and, we had the otter, but we hadn't deployed the otter yet. So the lady that, her husband went under is a very, very good means again. And so she contacted this rescue place that has cadaver dogs. And at first, when they contacted the cadaver dogs, we were going to go pick them up at Emerald Point and bring them out because it was on the other side. And I'm thinking to myself, I've never seen a cadaver dog work. And I will be very honest with you. I was just kind of snickering a little bit because, ignorance is bliss. And I had never, been with cadaver dogs, and they work off osmosis. And that's what they work off. That a dog's, nose probably can smell between 9 and 10 times what we can. And it picks up just the most minute stuff. Of course, again, I had to be explained all of this, but I had some of the comedians on your team, right, that are like, yeah, well, that dog finds them. I'll go ahead and do all kinds of crazy stuff, but there's no way that dog, or do some, things that you wouldn't do to a farm animal. And I told them, okay, well, cool. I mean, I'm good with that. We bring them out. The dog, it looks like a border collie, and it's on this little dinghy that we had, and we put, of course, some towels so the little paws won't mess everything up and sink the boat. He goes around, and I got it on video. He comes back and barks at this one place, and the guy says, right there, drop the buoy, drop the cage. Remember, we would drop a cage, so then we have the sonar can come and use it as a reference point. Of course, everybody's going like, snickering, because it's very close to where our initial diver went in and where they said he had gone down.
Now, just to clarify, the cage that Joe's talking about is a small metal cage. It's almost like a live trap. That we have
bigger than that. Ours was big. We got a big one. We got a large cage, so
like a dog kennel kind of size,
like a dog kennel on a buoy. And what happens is that sonar, when we drop the otter has a sonar on the top. We drop it to the bottom, stop, and then let the sonar ping it, and it pings it. Now the sonar and the otter knows where to start moving to go see what's there.
And the otter's a little underwater submarine, like a little drone that's cable operated.
Little drone that's cable. It has a cable. It has a tether to it. It has a 500-foot tether. So anyways, it starts to make its way over there. Of course, everybody's snickering at that point. And I remember Jessica's with me. So we're sitting behind, and we'll talk about her some other time. But Jessica and I are sitting there looking at it, and, we're driving it, and it's driving. I'm driving it. And next thing you know, as we get closer, I start seeing the signature of the cage and something beside it. Literally, that cage almost landed on top of our recovery. Literally.
Wow.
And I just drove it all the way to, and the first thing you see, of course, he's face down because, if you don't know this, and within the first, 10 to 12 hours, your body will land upright, and then slowly or gradually it will go ahead and go down. And you normally, everybody that I have found is face down. Normally, I'm saying not that you can't find somebody doing something else, but normally everybody that I have usually found, they're face down. And I'll give you some examples of that. So anyways, we get up there, everybody's excited and everything else, and, initially when the camera comes up and now we see it's him, we've been there for 2 days, and, the first thing we're like, yeah, and, Jessica, and everything else. But then we have to calm down because, the people that, are outside listening to this and everything else, we don't want to, too much hoopla. But yeah, we found him. He was right there where our initial diver had gone. He missed him. But that's not uncommon. You will have somebody beside you and zip out. I mean, you're not going to see them. You're just not going to see them. So it's just like we got them. We were able to recover. It took us 2 days. The first day we did everything. We thought initially, again, that he had rolled down that hill. And now we were dreading it because now, man, if he's in that channel, the party's over. Who knows how many are still down there? So,
right.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, you were. That's the thing about Lake Travis is just it's so unpredictable. I've been in Lake Travis before where I'm cruising along and all of a sudden I have 40 feet of visibility. Like, where did this come from? And it's just a little pocket. You swim around in there. It's like, wow, that's amazing. And then you go, another 20 feet deep and it's gone, man. You're right back in the mud.
I've been in in Windy Point. We've gone down, and when I was doing training, even we would go off to do deep dives. We'd go off of Starnes, and there was a certain tree that I would like to go to. It sat at about 100+ feet, and what I would do is I knew exactly where it was at. I would jump off the boat and just deflate, go all the way down, dark. I had my lights on. I saw when I turned my light. By the time I got to 80 or 90 feet, and I had my lights on. Now it's clearing up, and I actually can see. Get all the way to the bottom. I'm on the face of the moon, and here's this lone tree that sits there, has no branches, nothing. It's just a stump, pretty big. It probably stands at about 15 feet, and it has a couple of branches that have no leaves or anything like that. And what I would do, I get my buoy and I tie it off on that. And that way, then I could go up. And then when I did the deep dives, we would just follow the buoy all the way down. And I'd be looking at my students, make sure they're not getting, narcosis and all this other stuff. And I'm looking at their eyeballs, get down there. Hey, 2 + 2, here's my slate. Solve the problem to make sure that, you're not narking out on me or doing the color codes. So then look at it. What color is this? What color is this? What color is this? When we do the deep dive stuff. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, you can lose somebody pretty quickly. And then, we have, some other cases too. We were at Starnes Island. I'm gonna jump into this one. You'll pretty much like this one. We are at Starnes. There's a call. A kid just jumped in the water at one of the docks, off the dock, and he hasn't surfaced. EMS is already there. Fire is already there with their boat, and they are doing the snorkel dives to try. I know, but good show.
Do what you gotta do, man.
Good what you gotta do, man. It was only 25 feet of water. That's it, 25 feet. We roll as we're rolling in there. I had always carried my gear with me. By the time I got there, I have everything on. Everything is on. I'm just sitting there. Get there, off the Munson I go. They said it's right there, off the Munson I go. I start to descend. I start slowing myself down. Before I get to the bottom, because I know how deep it is, I slow down. I hit it. I talk with my hands. Anyways, I slow down. And then I sit for just a second. I want you to imagine you're sitting there. You know how it is. You're breathing, looking around, going like, okay, this is not it. Okay. You're looking, going like, they gave the wrong place. I'm gonna have to call the team. Dang it. I wish I just got them and we're gone. And Greg, as the day, I can still see it now. I mean, you just don't forget this. I start to turn, and I swear to God, I literally run into this guy. He's right there.
Yeah.
Imagine he has petechia. That means that your blood vessels have blown up in your eyeballs, but his eyes were wide open. Petechia, and he's foamed at the mouth. He looked like a zombie, and I screamed.
Oh yeah, I know. I've been there, man.
I won't. Hey, I will not deny it.
I've been there.
Scream. I blew 500 pounds of air in an instant. Oh, yeah, boom, gone. And I reached out and grabbed him because I didn't want to lose him. And I'm standing there and said, I don't want to look at him. I don't want to look at him again. Breathe. You're okay. You're okay. He's not going to reach out. If he touched me, it was over. I would have screamed and gone. I would have gone embolism all the way up, but I did. So I sat there. I finally calmed down. And then I look at him. Okay, he's there. He's a dead dude. Okay. We're bringing a loved one back.
Right.
So, you're bringing someone's loved one back, but God almighty, I mean, my heart is just like, know, and then we bring him all the way up, and then of course EMS grabs them. They want to play their show and everything else, but he was already gone. There was no sense, but they did. They tried and did the, their thing. He was
So
so he
back in this would have been golly, man, this would have been 97 maybe. Um, had a drowning right off of Windy Point. I was in the boat by myself. It
mm,
was within 20 minutes of it reporting. I think at that time we were working on a 60-minute. You know, we would run rescue for 60 minutes. At 60 minutes, we would then call it, which is way past, as you know, what anybody's going to survive in Lake Travis just because of uh, the temperature of the water. Anyway, Joe, I got to Windy Point. The flat area out on the point when the water's
yes,
down a little bit, you got that big flat
it
area.
goes flat
It's probably 15, 20 feet.
at
I had
least.
that old metal boat. I can't remember what it was called. And I got up on the bow. I threw my anchor off, tied it off real quick, threw a little, just a BC and some weights and some fins and a mask, jumped in the water, started a circle search, and he was standing up right there. And I ran right into his face. And it scared. Oh my God.
It does.
That-
It does.
yeah.
I don't care how many
And
times you've done it when you
I
because you can't
very
see.
I very quickly went into ground fighting. I looped his arm, grabbed him from I turned him around, grabbed him from behind, and hit my BC. Went positive. Exhaled all the way to the surface. Did a little side stroke to the back of the boat. Tied him off there. And then I had
Hopefully
to
not
get
by the neck. Not by the
yeah.
neck. Not by the
Uh,
neck. Okay.
and I had all that gear on. I didn't want to lose it, so I had to actually get on my engine and ride my engine up, do the hydraulic, and get me into the boat. And within I don't know, another 10 minutes or so, EMS was on the point and brought him over there. And of course, there was nothing that we could
Mhm.
do. But yeah, and people don't realize what what that's like. And you're laughing, I'm laughing because it's gallows humor, man. You either laugh about it and shake it off, or you spend half your night staring at your ceiling fan. You know,
We would lose people. Remember, we would have team members. I remember like 4 or 5 people that joined the team and then eventually washed out because, they go to their first, everything is cool when you're at the pool, you're
yeah,
practicing, you have the gear, you look, hey, you're part of the dive team. It's all fun and
yeah.
games until you have to go into the darkness, and then you have to go ahead and confront something that just pops up in front of you. You have to get your head
Everybody
wrapped
wants to
around that.
be infantry until it's time to do infantry stuff.
Yeah, and then nobody wants to do infantry stuff. So and then the more you recover, and some people are a little more sensitive than other people. I talked about it, and that's what we do. We have the debriefs. I had more debriefs, and then we have the beer debrief. And then you kind of let the stuff out of your system. I'm good with it. I mean, yeah, sure, that image comes, but it doesn't scare me, or it doesn't like bother me like it did initially. But I kind of worked all the way through it. I'm getting somebody's loved one, and somebody has to do this job, and we do it. And the guys that do it, it's a these guys really risk their life when they do this. And we practice for it a lot, but there's a lot of things that go in it. And as a team leader, you are, and I will not send them in if I have something like that. The point that we had over there was no point sending people down to that. To the
Right.
guy off of that was from the universe, no way. It was just unbelievably stupid to send somebody in there. But again, the loved ones would have no for an answer, and they decided to pay, and that's great. And the team came, but nothing happened. We had jumping right through that. We had another one, and this one's going to be kind of cool. Do you know where Possum Kingdom's at?
Yeah, up near Fort Worth.
Possum Kingdom, yes, by Terrell. And we got called because they had a team up there. Well, I call it a team. They had divers that they had put together, and they had a quasi team. And they kind of, after we went there, they wanted to see what they could do to make it a little bit better. I said, well, you need actually dry suits and not wet suits when you're diving in 60-degree water because you're going to be freezing your butt off all the way down there, and you're not going to be working efficiently at all because you're going to be freezing your butt off. So, and other things, comms and all this other stuff. So, anyways, long story short, they called us and they said, and this is what the story, and they had a really, really good last known point. Now, I had never been to Possum Kingdom. It is fantastic. It's beautiful out there. If you haven't had a chance to go. They have all kinds of cool places, but they have these huge, and I say huge compared to Lake Travis, cliffs. We're talking 50-foot at least cliffs that people actually jump off of. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't recommend you do it, but people are people and they will do it. So you get all these high school kids together, and mind you, the victim in this case didn't drink. Great. Actually, he was a star running back for the high school with Terrell. He was a candidate to go to Penn State and a bunch of other universities, I know, because I read it after the fact. Well, when we get there, what happened was all his friends, they were jumping off the cliff, and somebody was videoing them. So we have a video. I got to see the video. They jump off the cliff. Everybody follows. They jump. Our victim jumps off the first time. Lands, great, no problem at all. Swims to the boat, blah, blah. And then they want to do it again. They all go back again. A couple of them jump. He jumps, but I notice in the second jump that he makes, he did not land on his feet. He landed in a semi-feet chest position. So what did it do? It knocked the wind out of him initially. He hits, you can see it. He goes under, comes up in a state of panic. Remember, he is all muscle.
Oh, boy.
Comes up. And immediately I see him go under. I went, there it is. There it is. And I'm going like the people, well, we tried to go up there, but you're too far away from him. It takes what? Not even a minute, not even 30 seconds to go, and you're done.
Oh, yeah.
He goes immediately under, and that was it. That's all he wrote. So they know. They have a last known point. They got these barges out there. Before we even got there, they got these barges out there and put them on the cliff to search that area. They searched that area, and that morning they searched it. No luck. None. Okay. That area specifically right there, when you go under and hit the bottom, it is total stilt out. And I'm talking about as dark as your dark background right there. You can't see anything at all. Nothing. Okay. They ran sonar, really weren't getting anything, kind of a couple of signatures. So we get there, we throw our cage to a couple of their signatures, and one of the signatures looked good. We send the otter down. Of course, we got there after the fact. We were almost into nighttime when we were doing this. We send the otter down, and I've got a picture of it. I need to send it I got the otter picture of him and the cage. I wish I would have had it for tonight. I'm going to send it to you so you can add it to the deal if you want to later. It is amazing. Now we have him. We have where he's at. We throw another buoy route down there, and we send the diver on the buoy to go all the way down there and do hands on him. And he did. He was sitting at 54 feet. 54 feet. And where was he? Face down in the silt. We grabbed him, bring him up. By midnight, we had him. The operation lasted from the time we got there. It was like, oh my goodness. We were there almost 18 hours on station. But wow. We got him. It was a heck of it. And then we drove all the way back home. I remember I was just like cranking out that coffee and everything else to get because the team didn't want to stay. They offered us, oh, we'll give you the shacks here for now. I said, no, we're headed back to Austin. So we helped them out. So it was intense. It was sad too, but the family, I mean, they wanted their kid back so bad. Right. And I was going to leave until I found him. And we found him. That team was really, really like very appreciative. The family was very appreciative, but it was sad. It was really, really sad to see a kid, with all that potential.
The thing, right? So there's all kinds of different things that motivate people to want to be on a dive team. One, you have to be really dedicated just to get the certifications, right? Two, you have to go through all of the, whatever the testing is and standards if you're going to do a public safety diving position, like an underwater recovery team kind of thing. So you have to go through all that. Then you have to go through all of your public safety diving training, skill sets, and all that stuff above and beyond your basic scuba diving stuff, and learn all the different techniques, the search techniques, recovery techniques, and all that stuff. And so there's a whole bunch of different motivations. Some people, it's like, hey, the dive team looks cool. I want to look cool. I want to be on the dive team. And they go and do that until they have to do a recovery of a young person who is purging their stomach contents in the water with you. That changes things up a lot, right? As far as just biological contamination, so much more important to have those dry suits and have full face mask and stuff like that. But you look at this stuff, and the big thing for me, I was on call with the dive team. I want to say about 18 years off and on. The one thing I just wanted to do is hand this body back to the family. That's what my motivation.
That's it. There's nothing else.
And
nothing
there was,
else.
Yeah, there were several times I was unable to do that. And it's just, beyond our scope of capabilities because of the depth. Some parts of Lake Travis, when the lake is overfilled, it could be 200 feet deep. Or we just didn't have a good last point and we have nothing to go off of. There's a couple of those.
Yeah, and we have those, and we can talk about those in another, part 2, because we have that one that really comes to mind that really hits home to me, which was really weird, is the rental boat. They had a rental boat that they found floating adrift, and they called us.
About.
Were you in homicide at that time, or?
Yeah, that was an older man with a young girl, if I can remember.
Let's leave it at that one right now.
Yeah, let's do the We actually should. We'll see what kind of response we get out of this podcast on whether people want us to. We should do like specific cases that were very unusual.
Oh yeah, I've got them all documented. We documented every one of them. I did everything that I did on my teams. We got them all documented. I was just kind of throwing that one out there because that one was really, really. We found the boat adrift. And I'm not going to go to all the specifics of it now. We could do that later. But his watch was on board, a camera was on board, clothing were on board, purse was on board. So we knew at least who the two people were. We had the paperwork for the rental, blah, 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 blah. But what made it so weird is that it was adrift.
Yeah.
So once it's adrift, you are done. I mean, because now where they were, nobody knows. You just can't tell. Unless you have a phone that has a tracking system in it, okay, that you can Google whatever. And I think for that point we didn't have that.
Yeah, there was no.
And we were just in the air on that. But we had the camera. Now the camera went ahead and showed us photos and certain places that we could see on the background, and it was time stamped because we had the time on that, so you could kind of build that. But even then, there's absolutely no way you were going to find them, and we never did. And those are two that are, again, along with the other, how many did you say? 11? I had 7. When I left, there was 7.
Yeah, no.
7 or 8, and now I guess that went up. So
I went all the way back to a case that it was 2 dancers and 2 men. And this was in 1974 on a houseboat.
Oh, wow. I was going through basic training.
Yeah. Let me tell you, we can cover that one. That is a really interesting one because I have other that's reminiscent of Crumpacker. That is a private secret code I just sent Joe.
You just
it's reminiscent
code, huh?
Of Crumpacker, yeah. And so maybe we should look at doing a couple of episodes on just those cases because they're fascinating.
And what we did, I mean, the hoops on Crumpacker, on the other one, the hoops that we did, not only scouring that, but then scouring the land masses all the way around.
Yeah.
And absolutely zippo. Of course, now we go into the guys are, seeing Bigfoot and everything else. Not that I'm docking Bigfoot because he probably does exist out there in the Yukon, but oh, well, this guy's here. He's probably there. Elvis, he saw Elvis, whatever. you just don't know. I mean, you check
Wow.
credit cards, you check bank accounts, you check everybody and their mama, and nothing. Of course, the homicides that we've had out there too, or some of them are just really, really like,
Sure.
all of a sudden this guy floats up with an anchor tied around his neck. It's just kind of like, Now that one's interesting.
So
I don't know if you remember that case, but yeah.
yeah, his last name was Lawson, so I remember it very well. So you had mentioned something at the beginning of this. You were like, I have this other case, and I don't know if we skipped over that or not. But did you work any like down in Hippie with that big? There's a big cypress grove right out in front of Hippie before you get
not only the Cypress Grove, but you have the
milling
where they build the dam. Where they build
Yeah.
the dam is right in front of there. They have all the boards, the buildings,
Yeah, the
everything.
shaker
I drove
plant is
that.
right there.
The shaker plant. I've been to
Yeah.
the shaker. I've been to the shaker plant, and the
So-
shaker plant is really, really cool.
Yeah. So those that aren't familiar with Lake Travis, below the Oasis restaurant, there is a park called Hippie Hollow. It's the only place in Texas I think you can go completely nude and nobody does anything about it.
Commando.
Yeah, that's right. And so this is a great place to dive right off of there. But there is those cypress trees grew along in front of those cliffs there, and then past that is a abyss, and then the shaker plant is right there, and it's an abyss because
it's a grotto. It has a grotto in there too. It has a grotto right in front of it.
Yeah. So it's a big construction area where they were actually mining the lime for the dam to build cement.
Yep.
So have you did you do any recoveries along Hippie?
Never did recovery there. Never. We had some calls there, but they had already pulled the people out. No, I never did. Did you? I've never done one there ever.
Well, I've dove there looking for people, but because those cypress trees they're very full of limbs. They're still there's a lot of limbs and stuff on them.
Oh, I've got video of that too. Not there, but of those limbs. It's crazy.
As soon as you get underneath it and you start looking, if you can look, and I say looking, right? That's not with your eyes, it's with your hands. Yeah, you go negative into the mud and you kind of do an arm sweep, then a push up, and you move yourself a foot forward, then you do another arm sweep, and you just kind of work your way along that way. So yeah, man, it was an absolute nightmare.
Did you guys throw like, I'm just curious. So did you guys, because when we go to what is it, Devil's Cove, and you know how nasty it is when you get to the bottom of Devil's Cove, it silts out on you. It's just that stuff underneath Devil's Cove is grotesque. It's horrible. But we were going for recovery, and we threw a line straight down with a big plate weight, so it's weighted down. We wanted it to be heavy as we could get it, because we were going to go down the line, tie off with our line, and then sweep out 5 feet at a time, go around, and then let out another foot or two, go around. You know, all we did was go around. That's what we're doing, circular out of it. Is that the kind of stuff that you guys were doing? Because there you can do it because you don't have no trees. But yours, I don't know.
Yeah, we couldn't do it there. There's too many rocks. It's like an avalanche happened there. There's all these rocks, and then you have all the trees
at an angle. It goes down at an angle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we need to set this up, and we need at least 2 or 3 more of these on aquatic death and body recovery, and let's concentrate on those
aquatic death in Travis.
Yeah,
aquatic death in Travis,
and talk about the ones that we missed and those cases, because those cases are still open.
Yeah, we got cases. I had we can talk about the jet ski case that I had. You'll like that one. Kid on a jet ski, and that one was epic for me. What happened to that one, but I won't talk about that one. But it's we have case after case that we can talk about the different things and stuff that happened above the water too. Like the guy that went off the cliff with his F-250 and his because the lake was down and they were up there, probably partaking adult beverages, and they were just kind of running around circles and everything else, and they kind of overshot and then went off the cliff, and one of them perished. And they had a Great Dane on board, and the Great Dane. We found the Great Dane running back and forth, and we rescued the Great Dane, and that was pretty cool. That we got him back, and we had to go ahead. This is the first time that we had to use the bags, and we floated that F-250 to the other shore to be able to get the record to take it, because you couldn't do it any other way. That case was pretty cool.
That's a big deal. All right. Well,
the lake was low, but the lake was low.
That's our first aquatic death discussion. We'll lay it out better next time and cover specific cases.
It was pretty good. I mean, you have
Joe.
the knowledge that you have on your end, and what you did. I only was there for I did the special ops for about 8 years, and that was enough for me.
All right, so we're out. Have a good one, man. Thanks,
sir. Great talking to you. Let's do again aquatic death, like Travis next time.
Three Gorillas Podcast is a zombie advocacy production.